So we're going to start with the roll call and admit Mark Masterson into the meeting. He's in the waiting room.
Thank you.
I see Lena Andrews. Welcome, Lena.
Hi, thanks. Sorry, I'm not there in person. My meeting went till 2. I couldn't make it, but I'm here.
The city is shut down for flooding, so we're excited that we have as many folks participating as we do. Dr. Jamil Bey. Tammy Thompson. Karen Garrett.
Present.
Welcome, Karen.
Thank you.
Councilperson Deb Gross. Mark Masterson.
I'm here.
Welcome, Mark. Deidre Washington. Marcus Reed. Dr. Paul Spradley.
Present and accounted for.
And Muffin.
And Muffin.
Alan Cisco. Derek Tillman.
Here.
Hi, Derek.
Hello.
James Reed is present.
Present.
Adrian Wanaha is present. I know we saw Kelly Ware.
Yes, I'm present.
And we do have some vacancies. We are continuing to hope that we get some, movement on those. We are looking forward to inviting others to this discussion and sharing expertise. So we will keep everyone posted as we get any updates from the mayor's office. We're going to move to review and accept the minutes from March 7th. Hopefully folks have had an opportunity to take a look at those.
This is Mark. Move to approve.
Thank you, Mark. Do we have a second?
Thank you. Second.
We have a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Any abstentions? Any opposition?
Kelly Ware, I need to abstain. I wasn't present.
Thank you, Kelly. Kelly is abstaining. Any opposition to the approval of the minutes? If not, motion approved. Thank you. And we are going to invite public comment from Megan Hammond.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Good afternoon. My name is Megan Hammond. I'm the Executive Director of the Fair Housing Partnership of Greater Pittsburgh. Let me say my utmost thanks and appreciation to the URA for yesterday's announcement of the key targets and initiatives for the Affordable Housing Bond Spending Plan. Priorities include the inclusion of 3-bedroom unit sizes, increasing the unit affordability by utilizing housing choice vouchers, and increasing the disability accessibility expectations beyond the federal minimums. These priorities are a phenomenal kickoff to April as Fair Housing Month, and I'm incredibly excited about the work to come. And so I also want to thank the URA and this advisory board for continuing to engage on these discussions about how to apply a fair housing lens to the funds for affordable housing matters. And so to this advisory board today, I have 2 requests. One is that as you discuss the relationship and the interconnectivity of the Housing Opportunity Bond with the URA and the Affordable Housing Bond, the interconnectivity of the Housing Opportunity Fund with the URA and the Affordable Housing Bond, for this body to consider uplifting the URA's announced priorities by issuing a statement in support, or adopting similar priorities by this board as allowable by the legislation for this fund. 2, for me, the next step is on discussing how the programs funded by the Housing Opportunity Fund can be amended if needed to better assist with realizing these priorities in real life. For example, to support larger unit sizes, the rental gap program may need to provide additional funding per project. Additionally, as a reminder, there is a HUD mobility demonstration program occurring within the city of Pittsburgh. This program, by definition, is assisting housing choice voucher recipients with children under the ages of 13 with moving to what's called an opportunity area as defined by HUD. And so an additional consideration could be that new construction family size affordable units are prioritized for being placed in opportunity areas, And by partnering with the mobility program that's being run by the YWCA, we could have a pipeline of potential applicants of households who are looking for affordable units for families with children under the age of 13 in these neighborhoods as well. So I look forward to continuing these discussions on building out the details of how we'll support these priorities and apply them to the fund awards as they come over the next year. And again, I wish everyone here a very happy 2024 Fair Housing Month, and it started off with a fantastic bang. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Megan. I just want to publicly announce, we missed it at the beginning of the meeting. We do not have sign language interpretation for today's meeting. Unfortunately, we're not able to obtain that today, but we will certainly do our best to have interpretation available for future meetings. All right. We'll move on to some announcements. First announcement, wanted to let the advisory board know that the city of Pittsburgh and the URA have been selected to participate in New York University's Housing Solutions Lab Home Repair Network. This is a cohort of city agencies that operate home repair programs. The NYU will be bringing us together to discuss how our programs operate, how we fund them, how we focus on equity, and address those sorts of issues through the home repair lens. So we're very excited. We were selected as one of 7 cities to participate in this program over the next few months. It will be the city of Pittsburgh, the city of Philadelphia, the city of Atlanta, the city of Louisville, the city of Chicago, and I believe that's it. I wasn't counting, so I might have missed one, but it's a great opportunity. We're very excited to participate with our partners at the city and county, and looking forward to learning from other jurisdictions across the country and making our program better by sharing what we know and what they know. So we're very excited about that.
Will there be some sort of sharing out of that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the actual cohort meetings for this group are going to be taking place between April and June. So after this whole experience has wrapped up, we definitely will report back out on what we've been able to learn and changes that we might want to make to our programs based on what our partners across the country are doing. So we definitely will have updates in the future on that, but we're looking forward to listening and learning from our peers in different cities across the country.
And Derek, if there's any conversations that table is having that you'd like to bring back to the HOF, I think all of us would, be thrilled to support. If there's questions that need answered, strategies that need discussed, I think that we would love to be a part of that if there are opportunities. So definitely don't hesitate to bring things back to us that you might like some insight on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for the offer. They have promised to give us lots of homework.
Yay!
So we certainly will be sharing that with you all and getting feedback with.
I'll be busy that day. If you need help with them.
Yeah, just wanted to announce that. So that's some great news. Some less great news, but still important to publicize, make sure everyone is aware. The housing stabilization program is currently temporarily closed and not accepting new applications because we have run out of current funding for that program. So at this point in time, you're not able to access HSP if you are at risk of eviction, looking for rental assistance. That program is not available, but there are other rental assistance programs available to county residents that are still open. So we do encourage everyone to continue to reach out to the Housing Stabilization Center as really your best place to access those resources if you need them. There are still some programs and some resources that are available. So please reach out to them if that's something that you need. And the good news there, though, is that this is a temporary closure. We anticipate getting the next round of funding for the year of 2024. We anticipate getting that funding next month in May. So the program should be able to reopen in the near future. Should be just a small gap between funding rounds, and we'll be back up to speed soon.
And just a reminder to everyone, city programs may not be available through the county, but county programs are available to city residents.
Yes.
So sometimes that creates some confusion. So don't hesitate to reach out to the Housing Stabilization Center for those resources because there are things available.
Yes, absolutely right. Well, that's for me, and then I'll let Eric make the next announcement.
Yeah, just a brief update. Last time the board approved our request to get some iPads. And I can confirm that we have now done that. We found a really good deal and we're able to get 6 iPads for just a little over $100, like a piece. So that'll be really useful for the homeowner assistance program and the annual allocation survey, among, other things in the future. So we thank you, and it should be exciting.
And if you want to sponsor, as we talked about last time, the URA will accept donations. So if 6 is good, 12 would be better. So just a reminder to everyone, if you would like to support an iPad, you can connect with the URA and, we can just enhance our ability to connect with folks.
Thank you. Great. So I will take this next one as well. Wanted to have a brief discussion about the homeowner assistance program. We're gonna be learning from other cities across the country, but we are also looking ahead to reopening the program for new applications later in the year. Specifically, it's posted on our website, but we will be opening the homeowner assistance program for applications this year on June 10th. And we will be accepting those applications from June 10th to July 10th. So there will be more information on our website about that as we get closer to June. But in the meantime, as we get ready to reopen the program, we're taking a look at guidelines and we have some updates that we'd like to make. So we want to talk about that for a minute. We also want to talk about just prioritization that we implemented last year for these applications for this program to make sure we're serving households with the greatest need for repairs. So want to reiterate what those priorities are and make sure that everyone's aware of those as we move into the next application round, and then also talk briefly just about funding years and how the program functions overall, so that we're all on the same page with that as well. So if you want to move to the next slide, Eric. So like I said, we do have some guideline updates that we are making. Nothing that's going to change the program fundamentally, but these are all updates that we're making to make sure that it is clarified and it's very clear to the public and to future staff how the program should be operating. And specifically, we're making a lot of updates to detail specifically what documents we will be requiring and retaining for each client that gets approved for the program. We want to make sure that we have all of that documentation for every single client, so we're spelling it out in the guidelines exactly what it is that we will be retaining for each person. We also want to clarify a few policies that we've implemented over the years for the program, but were not written down and weren't official. So we want to make those official so everybody is aware and knows how these decisions are made. So the first guideline, just to highlight, that we do from time to time have clients who have used this program in prior years and then reapply because they need more help, with different repairs to their home. But we also want to balance that with the vast number of homeowners who apply every year who have never gone through the program and need assistance. So we are, adding a paragraph here to the guidelines to stipulate that if you've already used the HAP program and would like to reapply, you need to wait 5 years from when the final inspection on your previous project was completed before you can apply again. We feel that that's fair and equitable to allow people who have not used the program at all a chance to do so, but also knowing that the program is not funded in such a way that we can solve everyone's problems the first time. And if you do have additional needs, you certainly can come back, but we're trying to space that out so that it is accurate. So they do have to wait that 5-year period before they can do so. And if they do apply again, we are stipulating that they do need to utilize the full program. They can't just come back to us a second time and ask for the $5,000 grant. If they do have serious needs a second time, we do just ask that they consider utilizing the full program with the loan and everything else so that we can, that second go around, try to actually meet whatever remaining needs they have. So that's the guideline update there. We are also tweaking, it has always been a guideline and a requirement for us that the borrower needs to have no outstanding city, school, or county real estate taxes when they apply. And we have also always allowed them to be on a payment plan. But previously, we had stated that they needed to be on that payment plan for a 3-month period and be able to show us that they had been making payments. We have had a number of applicants who fell out of the process because of that requirement. So we still have that requirement, but we've removed the 3-month period where they need to be paying on that payment plan and showing us that they've done that. At this point, they will just need to be able to provide proof to us that they are on that payment plan that's been approved by the taxing bodies, and then we would be able to accept that application. So trying to make it a little bit more accessible, but also knowing that this program uses tax funds. So we do want to make sure people are current on their taxes if they're going to use the program. So that's the minor update there. And then the major update is, again, like I said, project documentation requirements, just making sure that it's very clear what we will be collecting from everyone. And so that list, I didn't list the whole list here on the slide because there's about 20 different documents that we will be collecting, but that is, income information for the household. That is, tax verification that they are up to date or they're on that payment plan. That is, proof that they own the home, because that is a requirement for the program. And then all of the documents that pertain to the project itself. So closing documents around the grant and the loan that we're offering to them, scope of work documents from the contractor, approvals from the URA about that scope of work, approvals for payment to the contractor when work is completed. All of those are documents that we will retain for every single client. And so the final guidelines, which we will share with everyone, will have an actual bulleted list of what those documents are. But we just want to highlight that that's not something that we've actually specified and shared with the public before, and we feel that we should. So we are doing that. And then finally, we are updating that if a homeowner decides that they only want to use the $5,000 grant as the participant in the program, which we do get from time to time. Some people are nervous about the loan for whatever reason, they may not want to do that. We are going to, moving forward, require that they would then find their own contractor to do the project instead of using one of our approved contractors, so that we can allow our contractors to focus on larger projects that have greater needs and are more involved. And also, if they are choosing to only use the grant and they're basically refusing to utilize the loan portion of the program, the URA will not be warrantying the work that's done. The reason for that is typically, for these projects and for these clients, if we've accepted them into the program, they need far more than $5,000 worth of work. So if they're refusing to participate fully in the program and aren't going to be doing all of the home repairs that are truly needed for their property, the URA doesn't feel that we can back up whatever work. We'll do what work we can for them because we do want to support them. But if they don't want to fully repair the home and they want to use just those grant funds, we will assist them, but we're not going to be warrantying that work, on our behalf, because we can't guarantee that they're not going to have other issues in the future because they are choosing not to address some of the issues that we all know are there. So that is a new requirement, a new stipulation that we are adding to the guidelines for this year.
Does that have to be, Derek, does that have to be a subcontractor that is registered with the URA and vetted through the URA?
Yes, it was still, and that's, right now, we do allow homeowners to find their own contractor if they want to. And if they do so, that contractor does still have to register with the URA and be vetted by us, just so that we know they are legitimate. And that, we would be willing to pay them as an agency. So in this situation, they would still have to do that. But that allows us to free up contractors that have already been through that vetting process to assist clients with great need that we do know are there.
So would you also be publishing a checklist for subcontractors so that a homeowner would know this is what my subcontractor has to do? would that be a companion piece? So there was clarity about the subcontractor has to take these 5
Yes.
steps?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Whenever, if a homeowner chooses to find their own, or if we are requiring them to find their own, we do have a checklist that we provide them so that they know what the contractor would need to provide to us. That checklist does also explain the URA's payment process. Because through this program, utilizing public dollars, we do not make any sort of down payments or upfront payments to the contractor. It's all reimbursement based on work completed that we approve of.
Right.
So we also make sure the homeowner knows that, so they can share that with the contractor, and they don't waste their time with contractors who aren't willing to not be paid upfront.
That was my concern.
Yeah, we do make that clear. If a homeowner is gonna shop around for their own contractor, we make sure that they know that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so any questions about those guideline updates before we move on?
I just have a comment. I appreciate the update, and specifically, I know for a fact, it's been an issue for homeowners that have been behind on real estate taxes.
Yeah.
It's really a microcosm of a larger kind of economic issue in our region. And I think changing that policy, the guidelines to allow for folks to be on a payment plan and not have to have made 3 consecutive payments it removes a major barrier. So just wanted to acknowledge that and appreciate the movement with that policy. That is a big deal.
Thank you, Derek.
Yep.
Any other questions? Great, and I think we'll move on. Yeah, so we discussed this with this body last year before we opened up the 2023 application round. But as we all know, this program continues to see far more need and far more volume in terms of applications than we can support with the funding that we have. So last year we did implement a prioritization process that would allow us to review applications and select applications based on level of need. And instead of the way we did it prior to 2023, it was a first come, first serve model, where if your application was the first one we received and you were eligible, then you made it in, and so forth. We feel like prioritizing based on need is a far more equitable way to select applicants for this program. And so we did that last year and feel like it was very successful. It was difficult for staff. It was a heavy lift, but we think it's valuable. So we will be doing that again this year. And so we want to highlight what those priorities are. Again, the first thing that we will be looking at is need. The application does allow the homeowner to supply us with information and photographs of the conditions in their home and what they're experiencing. So we will use that information to identify need. They also do, as a part of the application, identify if they have been cited for any code violations by the city's Department of Permits, Licenses, and Inspections. So we use that data as well to see, what the needs in the home are. And then we also, once we've looked at the applications through that lens, then we also do look at the applications through the lens of households with children 5 years of age or younger, households with children or adults with an asthma diagnosis, and then households with seniors or someone who is on Social Security disability. To make sure that we are targeting, again, those lowest income populations, those populations that desperately need this sort of assistance and are not often able to qualify for other programs. So we look through, those 4 lenses, and then, we will whittle down our application pool based off of that prioritization. And then once we've done so, we then randomize those applications that are in that priority category. And then we will select however many applications randomly out of that pool that we are able to support with the funding we have, this year. So that's what we did last year, and that is what we plan to do again for 2024. So wanted to highlight that and remind everyone of that process and see if anybody has any questions about it.
Derek, how many folks do you anticipate? Once you started using the prioritization? You know, how many folks do you anticipate this year are gonna be able to utilize the program?
So are you asking how many applicants are we gonna be able to accept this year? Is that so we're still determining that. We don't
Okay.
know the total number of applications that we'll actually, financially be able to support yet. And I'm gonna get to why in a minute. But I will say, we had over 400 applications last year and we were able to accept 80 of those applicants. So just so we all kind of get a sense of what the volume is and what the need out there is like. Yeah, that's what we had last year, and I anticipate we probably will get even more applications than that this year. It tends to go up year after year, so that's what we're up against. But yeah, to get you to your question, Adrian, if you can go to the next slide, Eric, I can't remember. Oh, okay, I wasn't sure if there was another slide for this piece or not. Yeah, we will definitely update the board as we get closer to June with how many applicants we will be able to accept this year. The reason we don't have that number available today is just, we're trying to make sure that we go through our list with the current clients that have been approved already. And, as construction costs continue to increase, and as, some of these projects, become larger than we had first know them to be, once you start to open walls or take a roof off, you find you need additional funding for a client that you approved for $35,000, so we do sometimes have to initiate waivers, and some of these projects get larger than we anticipate. So we're gonna make sure that we have enough funding to cover all of the applications that have already been approved in previous rounds. And then we'll see how much funding we have then to take new applicants this year.
Yeah, I was curious if the prioritization had changed the profile of what people were requesting.
So I will say, yes, the applicants that we accepted last year, those projects are by and large much more complex than some of the projects that we would have accepted in previous years. Where, previous years, yeah, we had a mix of really dire, in-depth projects and then some people who wanted to replace their kitchens, which that's fine, but no problem with that. But with this new prioritization, yeah, all of those 80 projects that we did approve have some pretty dire needs. So we're just making sure that we have enough funding to cover those applicants that we approved last year. And then we'll determine how many new applicants we can take in 2024. Which is what we've done in previous years. I just think, to your point, Adrian, as we continue to refine our process, we are taking on projects that are harder. So that may make it harder for us to take, as many applicants as we have in previous years. So, I do anticipate we may not be able to accept as many applicants this year as we did last year. It may be a smaller number. But we are accepting, applicants with a greater need. So I think it does sort of balance out in that way.
Well, and that would be something I would think would be great to benchmark. So it may not be as many households, but it may be greater impact. And
Yeah.
what might we be able to talk about that?
Yeah, I think that's the right frame. And we should be able to present on that, as we get closer to June, just so we know where we are and how this new process is working. 'Cause I think anecdotally it is. I think it is a good move and a good change for us, but we should have some data to follow that up with.
Eric, I know when this program first came out, there was an issue around capacity, not so much funding, I don't think, or maybe it did with funding as well, but that there were real issues around contractors that were willing to work in the program, and maybe even staff and inspectors at the URA to follow up. How are we doing on that front as far as are we running into limitations because of capacity issues like that, or is it really more about funding if we're trying to serve a population with a larger need?
Yeah, great questions, Mark. So I would say, for the lifetime of this program, since its inception, I think, funding and capacity have been the two issues. And I would say, yeah, and I've even presented to this board in previous years that, contractor capacity was even a larger issue than funding. in terms of what we're able to do year to year. I am happy to say that on the contractor capacity and staffing capacity front, we're in a much better place today than we have been in prior years. We have done a lot of work to recruit additional contractors, through, partnerships with, local workforce investment groups, and our own internal, MWBE, office, just trying to make sure that the contractors out there who want to do this work know about it. So we do have a larger contractor pool today than we have had in other years. Yeah, I'd say the staffing support as well is pretty excellent at the moment. So, let me see, yeah, we still do have a capacity issue. We don't have the funding we need to serve everyone, and we don't have enough contractors to serve everyone in, the timely fashion that I would like to, but it is improving. Like today, we have 41 clients on our list that have not yet been matched with a contractor, which is a much smaller number than we've seen in previous years. There have been years that I've, presented to this board where we had, 50, 60, 70, 80 clients sitting on the list for over a year who hadn't even met with a contractor yet. So it is still an issue. Capacity is still something that we're working to improve, but we're in a better place today than we've been. But yeah, funding is certainly also an issue. The more funding we have, the more projects we can accept. But yeah, contractor issue will always be there too. Any other questions? That's all for me. Thank you.
We're going to move on to our committee updates. Derek and Dr. Spradley and Lena are all here today. I do not believe that Lena's subcommittee has any updates.
That's correct, Adrian. We're holding off until the retreat. We need to reevaluate our sort of mission and work plan with the larger group.
Thanks, Lena.
Yep.
Do you have a preference of who goes first, Derek and Paul?
I think Derek should go last because he's probably got some things to talk about. We have not met, and so we don't have any updates recently, although we're still in that phase of getting ready to tell the story of the board members, the HOP board members. And we'll do that in collaboration with the URA, their marketing team, their communications team.
And I believe I heard Megan request something of the outreach team. I believe Megan put something on the table related to how the HOF celebrates and promotes.
Yeah. And
The
issue a statement of
URA.
support. Is that what that was? Yeah.
So I think that that's also on the table. If you want to add that to the agenda for the next meeting, I think that would be great. Derek, could you share some updates from DEI?
Sure. Actually, I wouldn't say we have as many updates as maybe Paul had mentioned, but our discussion really was centered around ensuring that there's alignment, around priorities for DEI with HOF, and the URA kind of larger body, and other funding streams, and the mayor's administration really just having some understanding around alignment across the board. And I believe there's on the agenda today discussion about that. So that was something that was discussed during our group, and I think there's going to be some more discussion on the agenda. So we will defer to that agenda item. But I think it's good to see that some of the things that we're doing are in alignment with what we've been discussing for some time. But I think that's it for the moment.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, going on to the programmatic expenditures and updates, this is the March update. Oh, sorry, so this is the March 2024 update. As you can see, a lot of the money went out to the RGP, the rental gap program. That was from the one project that just concluded, which was the Standard on Fifth project. Yes, that's correct. And so that represents a lot of what went out the door as a disbursement in March. Some of the last HSP money went out there too, and HAP and LAP continue to chug along. So that's all good to see. Moving on to 2024 as a whole so far. We can see all of that HSP money that's gone out the door. Definitely more than I think some of us were expecting, and that's why that program has mostly run out of money, at least for now. RGP's been doing a lot, as we can see, and yeah, a very productive few months so far. So a lot of good stuff. Any questions on any of this?
What's the overall total? Like, what is that? Where do these numbers take us, I guess, in terms of the 10 million?
Well, this puts us at roughly,
Five,
yeah,
about 4.5. Am I
4.5, so.
translating that correctly?
Yeah, that's about right. So as far as for 10 million for the whole year, we are spending a little bit quickly, I guess you could say. But it does mean we are getting a lot of work done, which is also a good thing. So I don't know, leave some space to maybe have some discussions about how exactly we want to allocate everything, because we are trying to do so many things. We have so many, you know, things in the air that deciding which are the most important is something that we should focus on, because, you know, like we were talking about before with HAP, we now have the staff and the capacity to do as much as we want to do. So it is more a money thing that will be our limiting factor, as opposed to not having the staff to make things happen.
Caveat, just to clarify to your question, James, all the spending that we've been reporting on these last few months, that is not the HOF 2024 allocation, because those funds haven't been received yet.
That's, yeah, I
Yeah.
meant 23.
Just to make sure we're all on the same page there.
Moving on.
So we're actually not at adjournment. So there's a few things for today. So we have a survey out from the URA. The URA put a survey out to members. So I hope everybody has seen that. If you haven't seen it, check your inbox to make sure that you have access to that. I also know that Megan had shared wanting to really dig in a little bit more deeply into this conversation of how the bond and HOF are going to work together and our allocations. The rental gap program has been one of the key programs that is in that dialogue. So it's going to be really important for us as we start to talk about priorities, the other dollars that may be available to bolster programs in a way that maybe we want to invest heavily as the HOF to really get the kind of traction on a specific problem that we want, or ways that maybe the bond could support things that we are doing, so we could support more innovation and maybe different things than what we've been supporting. So I think that that is a key conversation that we want to start having, you know, to the extent that we can. I'm hoping that that resonates with our members as, you know, a key priority for us.
What would you like to see as next steps?
I would like to see us do a session, time in our next meeting to really start to walk through that, so that we can be well prepared. It's April. I would love to see us getting that information early so that, you know, we can really start thinking of allocations a little earlier. we can dig in, we can have a deeper understanding. And hopefully, many of our partners who've been engaged in the conversation can join us for that.
And just to raise in context of allocations is the discussion on, given this fantastic spend down and the capacity building in HAP and the spend down in HSP, is to also discuss the demonstration dollars. I don't know if there's any plan or targeting for how to spend those monies now, but if not, then, how to be allocating and prioritizing. We know we have limited funds, we can't fund everything, but to be intentional in discussing now as we're looking at spend downs and capacities of the programs for where the demonstration dollars could potentially be the most effective or prioritized by this body, as also in the consideration of relating it to the affordable housing bond and other activities happening in the city.
Adrian, it's Kiana. Can I just give a quick update on the bond?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So
That's
this-
why I said we weren't adjourned yet. I'm so full.
This is a great segue into the affordable housing bond. Just yesterday, the URA provided the bond spending plan to city council. We also did a press release around that to make that plan public so that the public has access to what the priorities and the targets are for the bond. So I would recommend that this advisory board take a read of that plan before we have this conversation, so you have that background information. There was a lot of stakeholder engagement that went into creating this plan with many different agencies around the city. And just it's also based on kind of like the pipeline and what the affordable housing market is showing that it needs right now. So we're happy to circulate that out to the advisory board so you have that plan. But I do just want to, I think we've talked about it a couple of times, but I want to make sure folks know that the bond is going to be used as a funding source for several of the URA's affordable housing programs, one of them being the RGP program, which is also a program that the HOF funds. So I know that the allocation is set for 2024, and I believe we set that at a lower RGP amount based on hoping we'd receive the affordable housing bond funds. And so we can definitely have a conversation around how do we still ensure, all of the housing opportunity fund priorities and goals, as well as the bond goals are kind of like meeting all of where all the projects are meeting these goals, right? So happy to continue that conversation next month or whenever we can.
So can we just say that we want to put that
Absolutely.
on the agenda for next month?
Yeah, so I think it is the, starting to talk about the bond more deeply, those impacts, and to Megan's point, May will be almost halfway through the year,
Yes.
the calendar year. This is a great time for us to revisit the demo dollars. So I think also having those two conversations synergistically will be powerful for us in our thinking about what our next steps are.
Is that something we could have a little higher up on the agenda?
That would be my hope.
Sure. Yeah, we can make sure that happens.
And if you can get that document around, that's going to be really helpful. Hopefully everybody will have some time to dive into that document.
Yeah, we'll make sure it's circulated after today's meeting and then probably before the next meeting too, just so people have the chance.
And if there are key points that the URA staff would like us to be really focused on, if you want to share those so that we know while we're looking at the documentation that there might be some places where we want to spend a little bit more attention, please definitely share that with us as well.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're gonna have a full agenda next month. So everybody be prepared. May is gonna be a power month for us. Hoping everyone's available on May 2nd. You may be hearing directly from your chair and co-chair related to participation in the meetings, any barriers that you might be experiencing, ways that we can do the best engagement to make sure we have powerful, consistent voices at the table. And in that vein, did anybody want to make public comment who's in the room? We would like to continue to do public comment at the beginning and when we have time to also do it at the end. So be sure to share with advocates, experts, leaders, that this is a great place to be, especially on May 2nd. All are welcome, so we hope to see a lot of faces. And I also wanted to share with the group, the Pittsburgh People's Assembly for Fair and Equitable Housing is having an event next Saturday, April the 13th. They're going to be sharing information about city services for renters and homeowners, community land trusts, student housing and the struggles that are attached to that, renters' right to counsel, the Tenant Bill of Rights, the right to remain in your unit, and alternatives to market-driven housing such as co-ops. So if folks have interest, you can Google Pittsburgh People's Assembly for Fair and Equitable Housing. If you cannot find this event, please reach out to me and I will send you the QR code so that you can participate. Anyone in the room who'd like to register, I have the QR code here with me. If you'd like to take a snap of that and register, we would love, to hear more from our community partners, and us attending events like this will actually help us to hear that dialogue in communities as they're happening. And hopefully will bolster the things that we can bring back to the group. So all are welcome.
Hey, Adrienne?
Yes.
Hi, sorry. I wanted to say one quick thing about the RGP discussion before we close out. I tried to say it before. But I think, and I'm not sure what the best way to do this is, but if we're having a discussion around priorities for RGP and better understanding of the housing bond, we really need to understand the overall funding ecosystem for affordable housing and sort of all of the funding sources that are out there and all of the priorities and requirements that are attached to them, because we're operating in this larger ecosystem. And I think that it's really important for this group to understand, say we want to focus on sustainability or like energy performance, understand like, okay, there are these other funding sources that we're using that have these metrics that you have to meet, or like maybe we should align our priorities with LIHTC and prioritize passive house. Like I just don't want to get in a conversation where we're sort of in a vacuum and only thinking about our own funding and not sort of acknowledging that we're one piece of a large puzzle ecosystem of affordable housing funding. And I don't have a great idea of how to do that. I've been thinking in my head, but whenever I think about us like adding more requirements or targets or whatever, I get a little nervous because they sort of need to be aligned with everything else going on. So, because the last thing we want to do is make it harder to develop affordable housing.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna ask you that follow-up question.
I want to just take comment as well to what Lena was saying. So, yeah, I agree with that. I think the intent here, and if not, I want to kind of stress that it would not to be make it more difficult, but that we would put emphasis on the types of projects that we would like to see, or even the things included within the project that may not be included. Maybe some more additional elements of DEI. So I think understanding that this is not the only financing source, but that we could be intentional about helping projects to improve. Maybe there's an element that wasn't included that's not a super big add, but that ultimately helps advance the greater cause. One thing about not making it more difficult that we should be intentional upon, and this is probably more for the URA, is even the application requirements. I think trying to identify ways to align what's needed, with other traditional funding streams that typically, go in tandem with this funding source. Really just kind of more alignment, like being able to almost use the same document And I know that that's the case in some cases, but then in another case, there's a whole other host. So any way that we can align those processes would definitely also make it more efficient. So, so yeah, just wanted to add that comment.
Thank you, Derek. That's really helpful. I think all of us want to be focused on impact. We want to think deeply and carefully about fair housing and diversity. We want to make sure that we're leveraging the funds in the most effective way, and that we want to create those synergies across funding sources so that we really are, amplifying what we're able to do. So thank you both, Derek and Lena. That's really important. We're going to need to do some thinking around the best way to set the stage. And we will definitely do that over the next few weeks. We had hoped to have our retreat as, part of these bigger conversations. So we'll also try to figure out how this all aligns with our retreat time. If there are folks who are really right now feeling, excitement and anticipation for this, and you would like to engage in a conversation about how we would set that stage, please be sure to reach out. Because we will try to convene and start to walk through this. So when we do have our conversation, it's the best, most robust, most well-informed conversation that we can start with. Are there other items that we feel are important to discuss today before we adjourn?
Yes. We only have two more. This room is reserved twice. So in June, we will be homeless. In July, we will be homeless unless we've decided to either go to the URA or I could just put more time on the calendar here. But I would like to do that soon so that we're running right now up against the possibility that someone else might have this room for an hour on the first Thursday of the month. Because we're coming up to the end of we've been in this, I think, for 7 months or so.
Yes, yeah. I'd say, Dr. Spradley, I'm gonna key on a confirmation, but I'd say if you don't mind reserving it for
Till the end
more,
of time.
few more months.
Okay.
I know
The end of
the
that.
URA office is not yet ready to host us. So hopefully in a few more months that may change, but right now I think we're gonna need some more time.
Okay. Would you like, I can book this through December?
I think that would be
Yeah, to
ideal.
be safe, that
Yes.
would be fantastic. Thank you.
And especially if we can get some momentum on folks knowing that we're meeting here over the next few months, it would be great if we had that consistency so they would know this is the place to be
Yes.
every first Thursday
Yeah.
at 2 p.m.
Okay.
If there are not other items, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Oh. Go second. Then.
We have a movement and a second. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, always remember that in between meetings, it doesn't mean the dialogue has to stop. We can continue these conversations. We have each other's contact information. So at least for members of the group, we can always keep the dialogue going if that feels important or there are items that are really, pressing on your mind. And we can absolutely bring those notes back so the public's aware of the conversations that we're having. So please don't hesitate if you feel something is important to reach out to the group because we do want to foster a higher level of engagement. And I thank everybody for coming and we will see you at minimum on May 2nd. And we'll also be engaging with you for a conversation of how we set the stage. So thank you, everyone. We are officially adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.